G'day everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Melbourne Punters Show. As usual,
yes.
Zach Ralphie.
Hello. Jumpy.
Potts.
Ralphie. Hello.
And
Rexy.
Rexy's back.
Jumpy. Hello. Rexy.
Straight from the Pro Better Live chat room.
So this will probably go up as part one, but Jumpy and I have already filmed a Q&A with Rexy that we owed everyone from a month or so ago. So make sure you have a good look at that.
Including the cameo of me walking in and just say hello to the guys.
And ringing twice.
And ringing twice, so sorry about all that.
They can only say it's good to be back. I know that when I first started taking punting really seriously back probably in 2009 or something like that, I used to look forward every week to the Punter Show, and I have done ever since. And it's been a pity that the Sydney Punter Show has been missing in action for a couple of weeks, and we weren't available last week, but we're glad to be back, and I'm sure that there's plenty of viewers out there that really enjoy finding the show available on Monday or Tuesday and enjoy watching it. So I hope that's the case anyway.
Absolutely, and the reason I was late, I'm sorry because I interrupted you, but traffic was stopped in Bridge Road. Now, if you're watching this not in Melbourne, Bridge Road's pretty busy. There's a beautiful little city pub called Dill Nations Hotel in Richmond. And then I parked there because I thought it was too crowded. So people were stopping me every 2 or 3 steps because all they wanted to talk about was will Darren Weir break the Commonwealth training record and whether Dwayne Dunn or Craig Williams, because it's absolutely captivated the public. The level of interest in it is just huge because that's what we hear about the racing media at the moment. And I think they're actually going to cancel the whole weekend of footy this week just to watch whether someone cares about. Do you care? Like if it's a photo finish.
Or the apprentices. I mean, that's
all I care about is getting the Dunn double up, and I haven't even had anything. No, I haven't. To give everyone an idea of how lost I was last week with no Punter Show, I still came here for lunch with my brother on last Monday and had about 8 pots. So I didn't know what to do with myself, but we're back and we're ready to tackle a whole heap of stuff.
So I'll make a comment on the Jockey's premiership, right? Fair enough. I don't really care, enough, whether Craig Williams or Dwayne Dunn wins. Means nothing to me. However, I'd say for punters for the next, for the rest of July, those 2 jockeys are very focused, trying to get themselves on as many good rides as they can. They're trying very hard in all races. They're doing their homework. And the other jockeys are trying to knock them off as well. So it's making racing quite competitive, which
that's the good part.
That's the good part.
Absolutely.
Who actually ends up winning, I couldn't care less.
And the way it's covered, and I actually want to tie this up into both, the way it's covered, it's as if, let's say we like on the mid prices or Team Hawkses or whatever, and it's in a photo finish with the Darren Weir runner. We actually should rather barrack Darren Weir because he's going for the record. They keep forgetting. This is the self-interest sport of all self-interest. We are interested in ones we're on, and we're not interested in ones we're not. And we don't care about all the others.
And this is the punter show. This is not the jockey show.
Exactly.
So we care about what punters care about, and they care about getting paid.
Well, here we go, boys. I'll give a couple of jockeys. We've got our little stable here. Benny Allen's definitely one of ours. He put us on to Benny Thompson. I was talking to a few bookies that at some of the lesser meetings down at Geelong and whatnot where I've been lately, and they've been half-potting Georgina Cartwright. And I sort of couldn't really follow it, and then one of the great men to follow on Twitter, Daniel O'Sullivan, he tweeted that Georgina Cartwright's actually pretty close to break-even profit on turnover against the SP. And there's very few jockeys that can do that. Granted, it was aided by a 100-to-1 winner, but they're the sort of stuff that, as punters, that's what we're sort of interested in jockey-wise. And another mate of ours, Osbet, Aussie Glossop, he's jumped on. He was one of the early ones. The Poon train. Matt Poon made his way across the border yesterday to Mildura to ride a treble. He's been flying in South Australia, and he's got a little bit of a cult following. And there's another young man called Derek Chung who's riding up there in the Northern Rivers regions up there in New South Wales. He's another one to follow punters. So from an interest point of view, jockey-wise, we're more interested in the ones... Derek.
Poon.
Or Matthew Poon.
Evan Poon. It's almost my favourite sporting name since Melbourne Footy Club in the early 80s, and a player called Peter Tossell.
What about the great Willie Dick that played for Essendon? But
that's the things that we can make money out of, which we're interested in, which the punter shows.
What about the jockey? This is probably 20 years ago. Jockey, apprentice jockey, apprentice.
They're being exactly.
There's been some beautiful.
So, but to tie it all up in the bow, including the punter show controversy, which I'm independent, but this is the punter show for them, and you're going to say we're sticking up for things. We're not, but to break down what was said during with Glenn and Mark, where Glenn got fined. Now, Glenn got fined and that's been done and he's apologised. I'm taking that to the side. Glenn Schofield got in touch with me on Twitter, but I said, good luck today to Glenn Pollock. Hopefully it's implausible that he would be uncaring in what he said. Implausible. Like, he works full time in racing. But what he said sounded terrible. Well, that's all. But hopefully it's all just off there. And then Glenn started saying, well, what about Mark Landlord said collateral damage, and what lack of respect is it for jockeys? Now, what we need to break down and take the emotion out of it. Now, if you're involved, so I'm not talking about the bad side of things, but Mark's point, and I replied to Glenn, and he didn't say that, collateral damage, if Mark meant it, that it's a horrendously dangerous sport. These jockeys live Spartan lifestyles, and there's actually no way of making a horrendously dangerous sport less dangerous. That means you're going to have injuries if the sport's going to survive. The only way to make sure that no jockeys get hurt is to cancel racing, and then no one makes a living.
Yeah.
That's the point. So the point about the stuff that we've been talking about, the jockey premierships and all that, it's actually, we all move on to the next race because we have to, because we're being clinical, and to us, the interest is not only did we make money, but why didn't we make more? Or how did we lose money? And I think that is the general stuff that makes it interesting to people year round, and the proof being they cancel all these racing shows, don't they, this time of year?
Yeah, everyone goes quiet,
because we want to find a winner.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter to us whether we can find a winner at $15, gift of music later on for DK. DK's horse is in down at Geelong later on, so good luck to our man DK.
I've watched Glenn since day one.
Yeah.
From the very first episode of Punter Show, where he tipped me into it. So I follow him religiously. He's called some champions after 1 or 2 runs. It's a done deal. Truax Toff,
yes,
made a lot of money out. He said it's the greatest horse he's ever seen, looks-wise, and came out and won the Golden Rose. But if you have followed Glenn for 5 or 6 years, you would understand that he was just going a little bit off tap. He didn't really mean what he said. He's just been humorous and maybe went a step too far. And I know he did. There's
we all do
intent there.
We all do it. I did it once. I said something terrible on RS. Terrible. It was one of those, someone had to go at me, I've had to go back, and I've gone way too far. Cut to the commercial break, I've just completely, firstly I've just, I am embarrassed I said it, but I'm not mentioning the person name because I just don't want to back over the specifics. I've just put my hand up and apologised straight away, as Michael Fergate did recently, as Glenn has recently. And that's all we can do. And then I'm off air. This is a true story. So I've walked out of the studio, bumped into Steve Cairns, late Steve Cairns, good man. And he actually was up to the lift while I said it. And I said, I'm fucked up. He said, what have you done? So I was like, then I rang the person concerned, and the person concerned, some people may know what I'm talking about, said, I'm not that offended by it. I said, well, what's the risk of offending you a second time? I'm just really sorry. I said it, rang his mates, all that. Then someone rings the Herald Sun. We then snip it out of the podcast. Don't do it a second time. I was embarrassed to say. Someone, maybe in the Herald Sun, maybe outside the Herald Sun, tell the snippets bloke. So there's a big article the next day in the paper. Lose the ego, Ralph. It's called the ego. Said this and they said that along the lines of, but it was taken out of the podcast. I get a phone call. It's bad enough that hide it from the wife and newspaper. She doesn't read the sport, but get it for a private number. So hello, and the person says, you actually embarrass me that I worked with you, I can't call you a friend anymore, and you need to get more politically correct. How do you remember that was? Sam Newman. So the point is, if you say things, you fuck up, you put up your hand and move on.
It's just play on. So as far as we're sort of concerned, we're happy to put it behind us.
I'm saying that the people that have watched the Punter Show like Rexy from day one, and I'm one of them, the good in Glenn outweighs the occasional faux pas by so far it's not even funny. And it was only people that watched the Punter Show for the first time on that specific episode that would have taken what he said literally. But anyway, it's over and done with, and we all need to just move on and forget about it. And let's long live Glenn Pollock. He's great entertainment. He provides some tremendous information for punters and has done for a long time, and you know that goes exactly the same for Mark Lambert. Like Mark's the great educator of punters. You know what I mean? Like, far from trying to be punitive to Mark, we all should be thanking him for everything he's done for a long period of time, being so sharing and willing to offer all sorts of guidance, both on air and off air, to people like me. I can't thank Mark Lamborn enough. So
there's one thing with Mark too. He's been missing from these Melbourne meetings down here running the Waterhouse stand. I'm actually looking forward to him to coming back on finals day at Flemington, because I actually need just an extra person to talk to, Potts. There's not too many to talk to at the minute.
So you're still out there in the boondocks?
I'm still out there doing my best.
I've got a mate coming down from Sydney on Sunday, so I'll send him out there to keep you company.
Yeah.
Have we moved off Glenn? Is that it?
Yeah.
We got to finish.
Yeah.
Fuck the Breeders.
Right.
Thanks, Glenn. One of the greatest all-time lines.
And so we've missed 2 weeks. The last time I was here, but we're in a different part of the bar. And just a little bit of correspondence about that show. This is from Warren, who emailed me. Just a quick note, congratulate all three of you for a great show this week. Love the passion, but unfortunately you blokes are making far too much sense for Terry and his mates to do anything as your ideas aren't the mutual handouts at manual handouts at Steward School. We did a big point about how we think Stewart's methodology should improve at the time, so we want to come. Finally, Jumpy clearly back the winner for the day, because you would only wear that jumper for a bet. Seriously, it was a shocker. We had a lot of correspondence.
Yeah, I did get a lot of correspondence about that jumper, and I'm happy to wear it. It's just that it's in the wash and it will be coming out. I'm actually going, and this will flow on to the next topic, I'm actually going to the footy on Sunday to see Carlton and Adelaide, and I'll have the jumper on with friend of the show, Jonathan Walsh. He's at Vic Bookmaker on Twitter. And he messaged me, and DK also tweeted about it. We've got a new hero of the show, boys. He's a strapper. His name's Slim Homan. And on Saturday, as you see when you're watching the TV coverage, when they're parading the horses around the mounting yard, each of the strappers are required to wear the numbered saddlecloth over their shirt.
A bib.
Yeah, the bib. Well, Slim refused to wear his because it had Ladbrokes written on it. He's been barred from betting there. So he said, you know what? And if they're not prepared to bet me, I'm not prepared to wear the bib. So he is the new punter show hero. Slim, I doff my cap to you, mate. Well done. You are a champion amongst men.
Cheers.
I wish we had more little people in the industry like yourself to stand up and say, you know what? If they're not going to treat us properly, I'm not going to shill your product for you. So good on you.
Can I back that up with an anecdote on Ladbrokes?
Fire away.
Who have earned legend status in my bookmakers' Hall of Shame. Ladbrokes first came to Australia about 2011, I think, before they bought Iskanders and all of that.
And bookmaker, yeah.
And I joined up. Why not? I got the introductory email, which comes instantly. It's obviously an automatic system, and it says, welcome you to Ladbrokes, and all the information about how to deposit and all of that. I then got the closure of account email 19 minutes later.
19
minutes, hadn't made a deposit, hadn't asked for a bet. It was probably Tuesday morning or something when I'd done it. So I rang them up, and I got a very nice, friendly lady on the phone. And I said, this doesn't make sense. You closed my account. I haven't even started yet. And she went and checked, she tapped away. She said, oh, one of the traders here knows you from another bookmaker's account they used to work at, and he said, don't bet. So that's my experience with Ladbrokes. Never had a bet with them.
I've heard that same story a dozen times from a dozen different people, so God knows how many there are. And I say to Racing Victoria, is this really who you want to sponsor one of your tracks? And, you know, make strappers wear the, you know, I've never met Slim, and I didn't pick that up on Saturday, so I'm assuming that got out into the...
Yeah, got out into the Twitter sphere, yeah.
Yep. So that's great. Cheers to Slim.
Oh, he had to speak to the stewards.
To get approval.
He got called before the stewards to explain his actions.
I'm telling you now, if Slim got fined, I will be on the internet later on. We will start a GoFundMe campaign, and I'm sure the punters will have a whip around for you, Slim, and we will raise the money in about 18 seconds.
Now, I heard Dean Lester on 3UZ on Sunday morning talk about he had to try. He claimed that he actually couldn't fit the bib on properly, and it was like OJ trying to put hand in glove. So, and this is my only little obscure part, because good on him for doing it. Have you seen OJ Made in America?
I've seen the ads for it because I've watched American sports.
I know the story, but
yeah. But it's just where I just realised most people say if you've got Foxtel, but all punters have Foxtel. You can get it via your IQ. It's a 5-part documentary, it is one of the best things I've ever seen. It is awesome. It's not, because I was sort of 5 parts on OJ, but it's about the Rodney King race rides and the whole context they talked about. It's amazing stuff. There,
I think if you watch the NBA finals, you may have seen an ad or two for it.
Yes, there it is. It's great. It lives up to the hype.
And I just hope that the CEO or someone in charge in Australia of Ladbrokes is watching the Melbourne Punters show, which is unlikely, but you never know. There's been a few political ructions in the last few days, and Nick Xenophon's going to have a bit of power, and he'll be looking out for organisations that partake in activities that could be construed by him as predatory. So I'd be very careful conducting yourselves the way you have over the last few years into the future.
Well, talking of some of the great things that Glenn said over the years, in his own way, but it's absolutely nails it on this topic. He said, why is it rightfully okay to be illegal to discriminate against black, disabled, gay, religious, whatever, but why is it okay to discriminate against smart people? Which effectively is this is what that is. If you're a smart disciplined punter, you get discriminated.
Well,
but you're offering a service. I just don't understand the mechanics of it there.
I think it's even more than that.
Thank you, Gary.
I wrote to the
Gary
ACCC.
Gary's the All Nations.
No, I think he's okay.
Yeah, I'll have one too, please. Yeah, I wrote to the ACCC on this, and they showed their true colours because they wrote back and said, look, we're actually monitoring to see what the public are concerned with.
Yeah.
And so if there's a complaint about an airline or a car company, and there's hundreds of them, they'll investigate it. When there's one lone punter made a complaint, because Ladbrokes...
You weren't alone, I wrote to them too.
Well, because they are. Ladbrokes are literally breaking the law. They are their ads are misleading and deceptive because they clearly state every punter, every race, every day.
Well,
now that's
the really important part is that to our viewers, please all just write a really quick email to the ACCC, because the more emails they get, the more likely they are to do something. Because they are absolutely breaking the law. The ACCC basically acknowledged that to me on the phone. They said we can understand where you're coming from. We just need more complaints. So I would ask our punters, please just write a really quick email on their feedback thing, just complaining about the predatory practices and advertising, misleading advertising undertaken by companies like Ladbrokes.
There's one problem though, and I'm playing devil's advocate, but not on their side, that's why would you be. But the reality is, as we know, it's bloody hard to finish in front of this game. The reason these people are making so much money is because there's only a relatively small amount of people who are good enough to beat them compared to the ones that are. And if that's what the ACCC is doing, well then that's effectively saying that nothing's going to change unless, as you say, Nick Xenophon steps in, because they're going to say, well hang on, as the wagering lobby does, what they call the Australian Wagering Council, they'll say, well, there's 200,000 punters for every one that complains. And that could be the number for all we know.
Well, they must have a critical mass of complaints they need to get. But what I'm saying, if petrol stations, for instance, undertook the same practices that the corporates are undertaking, they would be gone. They would be completely toast. So I'm saying that they're clearly breaking the consumer laws in the country. They just all that the ACCC is enough complaints to undertake an investigation. If they undertake an investigation, the corporates are in big trouble.
Do you know what? The one thing that really actually annoys me even more than closing an account, because at least closing an account you can say, well, you're too good for me, I don't want to do business with you. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying at least there's that, if you talk about levels. It's the ones where your screen is offering this and then you log on and it's different prices.
Oh, that's
that
atrocious.
To me is about as unethical as you can get.
Yeah. Well, you can't. So there's that, right? That's clearly like a petrol station can't offer one price to one customer and another price to another. Okay, so let's just use a petrol station analogy. Right? A petrol station can't pick and choose its customers. They're a retailer. Corporate bookmakers are retailers. They are not allowed in this country, under the consumer protection laws, to pick and choose their customers. They're not allowed to engage in misleading advertising. They're doing all of those things and they're getting away from it. They're getting away with it simply because the government authority that polices these things hasn't received enough complaints about them.
And there's a two-part problem here. One is because I heard John Fane yesterday, I was going to drive and he's just chatting with one of the political people. And Laurie Oakes, do you know Laurie Oakes?
Oh, that's...
Oh, you're going to... You tell us story.
Right. Before we get to that, we'll work our way back around to this. This follows on. There's something we can actually do about this with the corporates. They had Bernard Saundry on RSN this morning. In the next 2 weeks, punters, there's going to be a survey come out, an online survey where they're going to consult with the punters and the rest of the broader industry about how they want to go about implementing the minimum bet rules. So this will be your little chance to have a say in how we can go about implementing the minimum bet rules. Blokes like Richie Irvine will be certainly tweeting it out. All the social media channels I can hammer will be putting it out there. So make sure you have your say and let them know that this is affecting you.
And that is why this sport's stuffed in so many ways, because instead of actually taking some action, taking some decisions, and here's a little Malcolm Turnbull analogy, and I'm completely, I vote for the Informal Party of Racing Victoria. That is why this sport's stuffed. Instead of actually just making a decision on what's right and actually doing some leadership and saying that is not good enough, let's hide behind some customer surveys and punter surveys and send it out as bullshit. Make your actual decision and actually show that you stand for something.
In saying that though, Ralph, it is going to come in on the 1st of October. They've already announced that that's going to happen. It's just what the structure it's going to be.
Well, that just to cover off on something that, you know, some people were confused about on Twitter last time they sent out.
It's not you have to have 1,000 rules.
When we talk about minimum bet rules, we're talking about the minimum bet that a corporate bookmaker has to accept in terms of a liability, not how much you bet. Like, there'll never be a raise above $1 or whatever. You can bet as small as you like, but the minimum bet rules about the corporate bookmakers accepting a bet at their advertised price without being able to reject that bet.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who watches this show that's confused by that.
No.
You're talking
just in case. I'm saying just in case.
It's the grandmas sitting at home who want to be able to put. We went from 50 cents to $1. There was an outcry.
Hang on, guys. If there are any 50-cent punters out there, come and see me on track. I still have the facility to bet you 50 cents each way, or 50 cents to win or place. Come and see me. I'm happy to accommodate your business.
So did you hear the Laurie Oak story?
No fractions. Cash only.
Rexy, what did you hear the Laurie Oak story?
I'll run through. Sportsbet, as one of their plethora of election markets, ran a what colour will Laurie Oakes' tie be during the broadcast. Yep. Now, I don't know whether there are some conspiracy theorists that say Sportsbet put him up to this. There are others that say, no, this was Laurie Oakes having a look through and decided to get even with the corporates. So, Laurie came out first with a red tie. After the next break, he had a green tie, then a yellow, then a brown, and by the time he'd finished the broadcast, he'd actually used every colour tie that Sportsbet had in their market, therefore forcing them to pay out on all the colours.
Mind you, they could have just called it a 9 times dead heat.
Did they have a dead heat rule? Was it specified?
No, but from what I've learned, it cost them about 3,000. So from what I'm saying is, that's the best 3,000 on marketing Sportsbet will pay for this year.
So, John Fane and the political pundit was talking about it, and he said, so John Fane's the ABC mid-morning host and rates 2 in Melbourne, very significant ABC audience, and he said, it's a good point, but he said it actually underlines how frustrated I am that it's even part of betting has become part of the conversation with politics and sport and so forth. That's actually what you're up against. And there are people who say, well, I don't care, it's gambling. So why should we stick up for punters? It's gambling. Gambling's all bad. So actually, a big percentage of the community saying, I hate racing, I hate gambling, I don't want anything to do with it. Then you've got people who aren't good enough to win, which is most people because it's bloody hard. So actually, in the end, you're only a sliver of people who have a legitimate who aren't going to get a voice and aren't going to get back up. That's the catch-22 that's...
The only swing with that is...
The conversation is really about the practices of these corporate bookmakers.
I totally agree.
So it's Nick Xenophon's made a real point of saying he's going to target any organisation, so whether they're using, whether it's poker machines or whatever, it's about any predatory practices.
So the
and those corporates selecting their customers and only betting people that lose a certain over a certain percentage is clearly predatory.
Does it make you
and they target, you know, well, I want to be careful what I say. If they target problem gamblers, they're in the gun.
If they target it, it makes you wonder that if the fair wagering campaign is successful, but if their campaign, instead of targeting first Alan Jones and then Racing New South Wales and then finally Racing Victoria, makes it interesting if they had targeted Nick Xenophon as a starting point, doesn't it? Or if they now move it to Nick Xenophon.
No, well, I think from some Twitter interaction I had with Richie, and hello Richie, he tried to engage Nick Xenophon early doors and didn't get much of a
And
response
that's
at
my
all.
point about the broader landscape.
Yeah, well, let me give you an example from the corporate world. Toyota got brought to account by ACCC about 5 years ago, and a lot of companies do this. They advertise free leather. They do a campaign, and instead of having cloth seats, they'll put leather in. Now, might be 80% leather. All the bits where your body touches the seat is leather. But down the sides, it's not only more economical, but it's better for longevity to have vinyl sides.
Yeah.
But the Toyota went and advertised free leather. They got smashed. I now work for a company where we've got to advertise free leather accented interior. Now nobody's been dudded by this.
Yes.
You're getting a better product because it's vinyl down the side. It's more hard wearing where you need it. So the ACCC take Toyota account because it's a big scalp.
That's right.
And the airlines, fairly enough too, they were advertising $79 one way to Sydney, but you couldn't get it for $79 because, well, you had to. There was no luggage. You
There
had
was
to pay credit card food,
walk on tax.
all the add-ons. Yeah, you had minimum 89. So they have to now have proper driveway pricing, same as the car industry.
It's the
So
headlines. I think.
why wouldn't Ladbrokes? And they're a big scalp. In my mind, they're a big
No,
scalp.
that's not.
They
It's
are
not-
breaking the law much more than Toyota ever did with leather accented interior.
That's what I'm saying. It's not the scalp, it's the people they're defending. So my read of this is that the ACCC or the Nick Xenophons of the world at the moment don't want to say, I'm sticking up for smart gamblers.
No, but that's not what they'd be saying, Ralph.
No, I'm not saying that.
They'd be defending against these companies being able to target the losing gamblers. That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is there are people whose headspace just goes, gambling, it's all bad.
No, I think you're missing the point. They've made themselves a big target, like Rexy says. I agree with them because when you watch the football on Friday night, there's Bet365 advertising.
Who advertises more than Bet365 and Ladbrokes?
So my point to the argument is, how have they been able to do this for so long and got away with it? Because no one wants to go to
the clock's ticking.
No one wants to stick up the punters.
And the clock's ticking on,
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm saying politically.
but the political climate's about to change.
Let's hope so. Speaking of which,
So, like the ACCC do look for targets, and I would say this is going to come onto their radar, and the corporates need to be very careful.
I'm just glad the ACCC got hold of the people with the vinyl seats, because as a child who grew up with Falcon Utes that had vinyl seats in them and hopping into them barebacks during summers, I'm still burnt.
now, $1.10.
It's sort of about not the seat part, they are the bottom
Yeah,
part.
but any vinyl's going to burn me, Potts. I'm scarred for life.
Now, because we're punters, so this is punting. People took $1.10 on the Liberals.
Yep.
They may still win, by the way. But what do you read? Because I've got a theory about Brexit was about $1.10, and the election was $1.10. One's completely wrong, and one might be skin of the teeth. What do you reckon the betting market's got it so wrong across the table?
Can I jump in here? And I'm someone who, as everyone knows, I'll bet on anything.
Yes.
And political betting is something that over the course of my career, I'm happy to say I've won on, with the help of a few people along the
Wait for you to say
way.
that you haven't bet yet. Or
No, Nick Tedeschi and a couple of those guys used to do really in-depth preview of the seats betting and stuff like that, and I've won over the journey. And up until probably, I would say, 12 months ago, the actual betting markets on the political markets were way more of an accurate guide than what the polls or anything else you could come across. However, I reckon in the last 12 or 18 months, everybody hates everything now.
Yes.
And it's to the point now where no one wants anyone to win.
Yeah.
So now they're just voting
But you
wildly,
yourself-
and it's just not adding up. Like we saw it with Brexit, we saw it with this election. This election, and Jared Daffy from UBAT, g'day Daff, he'd been tweeting out every time they laid a large bet on the Liberals, and UBAT have laid them at literally 2 cent intervals from $1.30 all the way down to $1.10 for 10 to 20 grand chunks. Like, this is proper betting. And I'm looking at it going, well, they must just be absolute morals.
Well, I agree with you.
turn out
I
that
agree
way.
with you on the history. The history definitely up until maybe not 8 months ago, but between 2000 and 2014, you could just look at the bookmakers' markets.
Yeah.
They were spot on every time.
Yeah.
And you'd watch the news and you'd think, it's a close call. This is going to be exciting. And you go to the bookmakers and it'd be $1.22.
It falls off.
And you think, this is a no race. And the bookmakers were always right. But I think there's been a couple more recently where they've been way off.
I would say that the last 10 years, the information leaking out of the inside pollsters via the campaign offices of the people that really matter has been extremely honest, and then they've bet, and the bookmakers know about it first, right? So that's the markets have been very accurate.
I disagree with that.
I'm saying in this particular election, and maybe even the Brexit one, the people in those campaign offices were delusional and were not being honest with themselves, and the information coming out of them was not accurate, and that's the reason the market
polls
was
were
wrong. The external polls were spot on. I'm saying in this case the internal polls coming from the campaign offices, where people would bet, they would get that information arm's length and they would bet accordingly, was delusional and inaccurate. I'm saying the mainstream polls, the external ones, which is flipping the scenario to what it has been, were accurate. They were spot on. And the people inside those offices were just not prepared to be honest with themselves.
I'll chime in here, Pods, and this calls back on my experience back in the day working in the Giants. We would have, and this was mainly in England, we would have a group of clients that would only bet on politics. And these people were within the political parties. And when they bet, you knew that it was the right mail and you did whatever you could to get whatever you could on anywhere else. I think that may have dropped off.
No, I'm saying that would have happened this time. People within those parties would have bet and they were wrong. And the corporates rightly followed them. But they were... The issue is that the information coming out of those offices just was not right. They were not prepared to deal with the reality of the situation they were in.
So with Brexit, this is not a political talk, we're punning talk because we don't care about anything about our own pocket. It's only government. So Brexit was the money side lost, because the money side said stay and left. Obviously the Liberals, if they ever lost, neck and neck, and they're not a $1.10 chance, whatever. So then the market's got that wrong. Is there a chance that with political betting now, and it's all so disparate, and because of all the sports advertising that we're talking about, that it's now more mainstream than ever. So the more mainstream it is, the more uneducated money, if you like. That it's the money people have made the market imbalance. You know what I mean? Like if you one person, one vote, but if you got more money, you've had a bet.
I think all markets are imbalanced, Ralph. I mean,
I'm saying there's a great opportunity for us.
Absolutely. It's like betting on racing, and the corporates heavily weight the market to the people they think are closer to the answer, to the final answer, or to the final market. Do you know what I mean? So, it's a case of like, if everyone in this bar had a bet on the politics, but one of us was from Mark Textor's office, right? Yeah. They would hit that bet so much more heavily, right? And I'm saying in this particular case, that information was poor. But also, it's an anomaly, really. It's because they backed themselves into a terrible.
The only other one fundamental mathematical point, nothing to do again, is that if you're a 90% chance of winning, never ever forget, if the maths are right, you're a 10% chance of losing.
When that happens, it's usually about, that 10% is usually about a particular unexpected event happening, rather than, in this case, it's just said that they were delusional.
Well, I'll give everyone a bit of a tip here, and this goes back to sort of my experience at hand price things, right? More often than not, if you look at a contest, generally the value is going to be in the outside for one reason. The bookmakers know they're going to lay the favourite outcome, and they will factor in a premium into that outcome.
There was the UFC fighter, Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
That is what you're just describing.
It's like they knew they were going to lay Ronda Rousey. It turns out in some of the fights it's a little bit different. They can lay the outside, but you take the football for example. If Carlton were taking on Hawthorn this Friday night, and if the 100% price was Hawthorn $1.20, you put them up $1.10. Now why? Because you're going to lay them anyway. You're going to lay them through multis. You're going to lay them at the line. Make the pickles pay the premium.
Well, that's.
Now that happens every market.
Exactly, and it happens every single market.
They try and put up the obvious pick under the odds because they know they're going to lay it anyway.
But it's good. It's a good exercise.
Longer on last week's a perfect example. They put longer on up far too short because they knew they were going to be able to lay it, and then it got out to its price it should have been, and then everyone decided that Darren Weir's a magician and wanted to back Bondiga, so then one went out to a crazy price.
Yes, but my mate Brendan Pruitt, who's got pre-owned of the sports betting hedge fund, and he said part of their dynamics when they were setting it up. Remember when Section 10 Dogger went 5 years without scoring a century? He said if you really tried, you could find an Indian that wanted to back Section 10 Dogger. A lot of them. So that creates that imbalance market we're talking about.
And there's one other point here that you brought up, Ralphie. Robots treating the synthetic track. From what I've seen, all the big syndicates seem to love the synthetic just because it runs straight.
Ah, yes. Now
Betting on it rather than horses coming off it.
Yeah.
Horses off it. So I was really keen on running bull last week.
So was Potts had taken
Potts was all over.
You too, good boy. So, what were you saying? We got it wrong, Tori.
That was Box of Frogs, wasn't it? Box of Frogs?
Oh, that was a Tassie horse.
Yeah, Box of Frogs started favourite at
Box of Frogs was $2.10, made the market.
No, that was on the synthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're saying backing out of Caulfield on Saturday.
No, so, sorry, very good, the horse who ran second to it. So does he, and I'm the one not drinking, so does he that ran second to Running Bull when it went to Sandown. And I thought, this is the quick backup, this is the box ticker that they're going to smash this. I think. So I started, didn't lock in the price, and it got the drift. So it was quick backup, it was good jockey, D done, it was it won on the wet.
He's in the premiership race, isn't he?
He's a chance of winning, it would be good for the narrative.
He's 5 in
Anyway,
front.
see, he's just drifted out now. He won like I wanted it to. It pissed him. It got out to 560. So when you need robot advice, who do you go to? DK. Yeah, just sent the direct message to DK. I've okayed it with him to say this public. So I said, why didn't they like him? He said, look, there's a big push now, and he might have said, now you can say publicly because Daddy likes holding his shelf everywhere. But that they're really against horses synthetic to
Back
grass.
to turf, yeah.
Absolutely. They're against significant changes of circumstance. Okay, that's a general statement, and that's absolutely true. And coming from a synthetic track to a testing winter rain affected track is a significant change of circumstance. So I'm just saying to the punters out there, if you're doing your formula, if a horse is coming off the synthetic, which say does he was, Running Bull was, and rewarding effort was, right, you've got to have additional context from the preparation. So in say does his case, he'd run on a testing track at the start prior, and he only ran on the synthetic by a quirk of fate where we transferred Cranbourne meeting. Okay. Shaw Mathrick actually wanted to run him on the heavy track at Cranbourne, so when he come to Sandown, that was a tick. In rewarding efforts case, he'd run okay at Mornington, then he went to the synthetic and was extremely impressive, but didn't have the seasoning to handle the track at Caulfield. I mean, I still backed him because he was so impressive on the synthetic, but he'll be far better for that run. But that's the sort of horse that the robots are going to oppose.
Particularly if they get back.
If they get back,
If they don't back well, yeah.
The other point about them is that so does he. That all happened in the last 90 seconds. I was watching it vigilantly, and I'd taken some of the. I mean, I think you recommended $4, and I was chipping away at 460 and 480, and then it came back into about 420 on Betfair. And I thought this, and I think it might have even gone under 4. I thought with 2 or 3 minutes to go, this is going to start. Favourite, and then bang, just rolled into it. 560. Might have even got $6 in that last little bit of training.
But Potts, weren't you lucky you got the tip that Cranbourne was being moved early?
Yeah,
before you start doing
that was
the
very helpful, Jockey. Thank you.
So just we should actually that last bit about Sandown while I'm thinking of it. Mick Kent, the track walker, who's professional enough to walk. Then when everyone was getting off, he said he kept his horse on the fence and
he's
got
just
the jockeys big
Thank
time.
Christ,
he's the best at it, man.
Super, yeah.
Like,
well, the jockeys should have a good look at that.
Correct.
Honestly, you jockeys that just follow the leader,
There's
go
another one.
out to the middle of the track and you haven't done your own homework. My opinion is you looked almost amateur, all looking for ground far wider than you should have at Sandown last week. And there were some situations, I won't single out any, but there were horses that went looking for ground wider than the middle. And I would say any jockeys that do watch the show, if this goes up before Sandown tomorrow, you need to go and have a walk of that track before you ride on.
Do you reckon Dunham Williams walked it?
Well,
I reckon they did.
yeah, but
Williams normally does.
my hesitation there, Ralphie, is they're usually very good, but at Moonee Valley 3 weeks ago, I didn't think either of them rode the track particularly well.
That
Would
was
Mick Kent walk it, or one of his people will walk it?
Mick Kent walks
Mick
it himself,
Mick
and
Kent
he'll
walked
walk it 3-4 times
If
before
it
the
is to
race.
be, it's up to me with Mick.
Mick-
It's up to me with Mick.
Mick Kent walked last
Himself.
week and he spoke to the track manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both Mick and the track manager agreed that the inside was absolutely not a disadvantage, potentially an advantage, particularly as the meeting wore on. And his 3 horses absolutely proved it.
Yeah.
That'll do us for War and Peace Part 1. We'll be back with Part 2 after a short break.